So, what if I told you America has this huge gap in its national defense, but the solution has nothing to do with battleships or fighter jets? Nope. Today, we're diving into a really interesting proposal to fix that gap from the ground up, and it's called the U.S. Army Auxiliary. And this right here, this is the whole reason we're talking about this. The United States does not have a true civil defense system anymore. I mean, that's a pretty heavy statement, right? It suggests we had this capability, and, well, we lost it. So the big question is, what happened? How do we get to this point? Yeah, it's a real night and day difference when you look at it, then versus now. Back during the Cold War, civil defense was a big deal. Americans were actually trained. They ran drills. It was all part of a national strategy. But today, our whole approach is kind of hands-off. It's all voluntary, relying on awareness campaigns. And the result is it's dangerously inconsistent. We've basically gone from a culture of readiness to a culture of just reacting. All right, so let's dig into that shift a little more. That brings us to our first big topic, America's readiness gap and how we went from being ready to just reacting. Okay, so if you've ever even Googled emergency preparedness, this list probably looks super familiar, right? It's the official stuff from FEMA's Ready.gov campaign. Be informed, make a plan, build a kit, get involved. And look, on paper, this sounds amazing. It's totally sensible advice. But the real question is, how well does it actually work in the real world? And this right here is where that good on paper theory crashes into a pretty harsh reality. Let's really look at what happens when all that awareness just doesn't turn into actual action. And here it is, the absolute core of the problem. Something like half of all Americans think they're prepared for a disaster. They believe it. But when you look at the actual data, who really has the supplies, a real plan, the skills they need, that number is way, way smaller. And that creates this massive, dangerous gap between how confident we are and how competent we actually are. Okay, so let's play this out for a second. Imagine a huge crisis hits. I'm talking a massive hurricane, a power outage that covers multiple states, or, something even worse. In a scenario like that, it's pretty much a guarantee. The professional first responders we count on, the police, firefighters, EMTs, they're going to be stretched incredibly thin. They'll be delayed. We're just completely overwhelmed by how big the disaster is. And that's when you get to the scariest part. When the system is overloaded like that, dialing 911 is no longer a guarantee that help is on the way. In that moment, when it really counts, you're on your own. You and your neighbors are the first responders. Now, this might sound super bleak, like there's no solution, but there is. And to see what's possible, we just have to look at how other countries handle this exact same problem. I mean, just look at this. You've got Switzerland, which has built enough nuclear fallout shelters for its entire population. Think about that. Or Israel, where constant, realistic drills are just a part of life. Then you have Finland and Sweden with their whole total defense idea, where civilians are totally integrated into national readiness. And then you have us, the United States. Our system? Voluntary, uneven, and fragile. The difference is just, wow. And that really sums it all up, doesn't it? That's the dangerous situation we've created for ourselves. We've basically trained an entire population to be really, really good at calling for help, but not so good at operating when the phone lines are dead and help just can't get there. Okay, so we've spent some time laying out the problem. Now let's switch gears and talk about the proposed solution from the source material. Let's talk about the U.S. Army Auxiliary. So what exactly is this thing, the U.S. Army Auxiliary? Well, the basic idea is to create a structured, nationwide civilian group. It would be aligned with the Army, sure, but its main job, its whole purpose, would be building up our national resilience from the ground up, right there in your own community. The easiest way to think about it is like this. It's a uniformed, federally recognized volunteer force, kind of like the Civil Air Patrol or the Coast Guard Auxiliary. But here's the key difference. Its main job isn't responding during a disaster. Its mission is to train the public before a disaster even happens. It's all about proactive training, not reactive response. Okay, and it's really, really important to be clear about what this is not. First and foremost, this is not a combat force. The members would be civilians, not soldiers. They would not be involved in fighting wars. Period. And just as important, it's also not a law enforcement agency. The whole point is public education and support, not policing. This is a civilian group from top to bottom. So you're probably wondering, how would this actually work? Well, it's laid out as a 4-step approach. Step 1. It all starts at the community level with hands-on education. We're talking stuff like trauma first aid, how to use an emergency radio, real skills. Step 2. It moves to training individual households to be self-sufficient for a certain amount of time. Step 3. Then you take those prepared families and organize them into local units for mutual support. Because let's be honest, a prepared neighborhood is always going to be stronger than just one prepared house. And finally, step 4. These organized units would then be able to help official responders with things like logistics, communications, all that stuff, when a big crisis does hit. And all of this, all these steps, they lead to the ultimate goal here, changing our entire national mindset, moving away from just reacting to disasters and toward a culture of genuine, built-in resilience. This really gets to the core of what would change. Right now we have passive awareness. We're basically just told what we should do. The proposal is to move to active training, where people are actually trained how to do it, with hands-on practice. It's the difference between reading a book about how to swim and actually jumping in the pool and learning. And if we could make that shift, the benefits would be absolutely massive. I mean, think about it. A truly prepared population would reduce the strain on our emergency services. It would bridge that terrifying gap when responders are delayed. Communities could sustain themselves for longer during a crisis. And because of that, they'd recover faster afterward. And here's a big one. On a national level, a resilient population is actually a stronger deterrent. It makes the whole country a harder target. When you boil it all down, it comes to this one simple, powerful argument. In the world we live in today, the resilience of the people is a critical part of national security. Put another way, civil defense is national defense. So we'll leave you with this final thought. A crisis is coming. That's not really up for debate. It's just a matter of when. So the only question that really matters is, will we be ready for it?